Hey everybody, it's Brian Asbury, and I just wanted to welcome you to today's episode. If you could, like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue to grow the developmentally speaking brand. Today, my guest, you've seen him all around the world, I feel. You've seen him in the USWA, OVW, WWE, Impact. Is there a place you haven't been, sir?
Anything new, yeah.
Wolfie D, one half of PG-13. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, man?
Now that we got this figured out, I'm good. I'm good to
Yeah,
go.
with little technical difficulties, but it was not user error on either one of our parts. We got it figured out.
So, what made you want to get into professional wrestling? And I'm sure that you've been asked this question 1,000 times.
Man, so before 8 years old, I don't think that I even knew that wrestling existed. My stepfather came into my life at about that age, and he was a big fan. And so we lived in Nashville. I got Memphis wrestling, and that's what we watched. And then eventually, I caught on that there was more stuff, buying magazines, and then WWE comes along and TBS and all that. I wouldn't miss 505, man. Wouldn't miss that. And it was just the instantaneous thing that I just thought that's what I want to do. And so yeah, at around 15, uh, my stepdad and a guy named Rick Reynolds were going to train with Gypsy Joe, and I talked him into letting me go, and that's how it all got started. But that's yeah, just watching Memphis wrestling, and I just fell in love with it, man, and I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Back then, because it's not like it was is today.
Uh,
Not accessible back then.
yeah, the it was in West Nashville. It was a barn. The barn was just big enough for the ring. Like when you hit the ropes, you would hit the side of the barn.
Hmm.
The ropes were garden hose, and the mat was just carpet, and it would get the one whole side of the barn was open, so you got rain and animals, whatever else. On that. So there was like no real canvas, and it wasn't protected. You know what I mean? So it stunk.
Hmm.
Smelled like cat piss, mildew type shit. But yeah, man. Honestly, I didn't really train in that ring for that long before they go. Let's just start giving you matches.
Hmm.
I caught on pretty quick with everything that they would show me, and there's like, let's put him in the ring. And so I think I was 15, turning 16 or whatever,
Hmm.
and went from there. A lot of hands-on training by veterans. Man, I know we're going to talk about OVW, but I I jokingly say this that Danny, I was his first OVW student, but it was all at USWA in the ring every
Hmm.
night. I wrestled him almost every single night, and man, that dude, he could go, man, and it was all on the fly,
Hmm.
and he taught me so much about doing that type of, I feel you need to be well rounded. Yeah, it's okay to talk about a couple of things and get stuff together, but you
Hmm.
also got to be able to fill in the blanks. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yep.
And he taught me that type of thing. Hit calling something, hit tossing me as I'm flying by, and he's calling something else. So
Hmm.
that was awesome.
So, when you first started doing your matches, did you stay in like the Tennessee area, or did
hmm
you?
Yeah, a lot of around Nashville, Columbia, Tennessee, Shelbyville, Tennessee, man, just all those. There's some southern counties down in there, and didn't really venture towards Memphis or Knoxville. It was kind of middle Tennessee. Some Kentucky stuff was going on in those days. Beaver Dam, Kentucky, Central City, and a guy named Shelby Adcock. A lot of people know his name from running the Indies back in the day. Uh, yeah, a lot of different places like that was where I stayed.
So after
I
you
didn't
did
know
this,
the
after
I
you,
didn't know big connections yet.
oh yeah, especially back then, it had to have been like I'm younger now, so like doing that back then, that had to have been a pain in the ass to try to get your name out. Like it was hard work. I think that's what's so
Oh yeah.
different now is it's
Yeah,
almost
because
handed to people, but now back then you really had to work.
well, I mean, also all you have to do is have a Facebook account or a
Hmm.
Twitter account or X, whatever, and you're out there.
Hmm.
You know, people are getting famous off, and I hate to say this because I know there's a niche for it, and I know some people like it, but you know, they can go out there and set themselves on fire and go viral, and boom, here's this person. You
Hmm.
know, they might not be worth a fuck, but yeah, you know, like I said, I'm
Yep.
not knocking it. It's just it was harder because it was about you wanted to be on TV. You know,
Hmm.
there was no YouTube to be on. You
Hmm.
know, if you couldn't get on TV, you weren't going to get your name out there, man. So for the Tennessee guys, Memphis was still in business, and that's where you wanted to go. You
Hmm.
know,
So how did you get your name out there?
and the magazines too. The
Oh yeah.
magazine guys liked you. Like seriously, like the magazine guys, Bill Apter and all those guys,
Hmm.
man. If they liked you, they're going to feature you. And in those magazines, you know, I would read the articles, and they were, you know, not really realizing what a work they were, but it just if they liked you, they put you in their magazine storyline, and so
Oh
that
yeah.
was that was the internet basically.
So back then, how did you get your name out there? When did you start, like people were starting to take you serious and wanting to bring you
Well,
in?
so okay, so 89, 90, I'm wrestling, you know, very first time. I'm calling myself Airwolf with a mask on. You know, then I take the mask off at like 16 or 17. I think I did a medic gimmick. You know, I was trying to find my thing, man. And then I came real good friends with Chris Champion, and Chris was very creative in gimmicks. I love the new breed, you know,
Hmm.
and there's hints of the new breed in PG-13, especially in the beginning. And so Chris was doing a thing like a ugly kid Joe gimmick around these local things. Um, and I'm also meeting Jamie about this time, George Weingroff, some people that you know knew what the fuck they were doing. You know, and Jamie was obviously breaking in as far as wrestling goes about the same time that I was. I mean, but you know, he was on TV and managing before that, but
Hmm.
you know, he's brought up in the business. So anyway, Chris was doing this ugly kid Joe type of thing. I hate everything about you was a popular song right then, and I kind of took that and twisted it into the Wolfie D because everybody, you know, I was called, like I said, Airwolf for a long time. With my last name being Wolf, just everybody started calling me Wolfie in the dressing rooms and stuff. Wolfie, Wolfie. So when I came up with the name and the thought process was okay, I'm gonna be this little white thug dude, and my name's gonna be Wolfie D, like Heavy D, Wolfie D, and I didn't have the name PG-13, but you could see it's funny because I saw a match that somebody posted not too long ago of me against Jamie before we ever formed a team, and I could see like little bits of Wolfie D trying to come out. You know, I had the shorts on, and then but I was just wrestling, and every now and then I'd break down and do something like this. You know, I was like, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but I was trying to throw a little character in there. It's funny, but yeah. And then Chris was the one that kind of suggested that Jamie and I do it together, and
Hmm.
then that worked out pretty well.
So from there, where did you guys start working to get your name out at?
Man, but as soon as me and Jamie formed PG-13, uh, there pretty quickly everybody was going, "This is cool," you know what
Hmm.
I mean? And uh, Jeff Jarrett was on one of those Beaver Dam shows with us, and I've told this story 100 times. Jeff, you know, Jamie knew Jeff, I didn't.
Hmm.
And Jamie had one of those big VCR camcorders, and he told Jeff, "Hey, film this match for us and take it to your dad." And Jeff stood there outside the dressing room and filmed our match for us. And I always say it's like, if knowing Jeff how I know Jeff now, that is hilarious that he stood there and held the camera for us. But so yeah, man, he took the tape to his dad, and we met with his dad at the mansion on the hill there in Hendersonville, Tennessee. That was the office, Jerry's house, and he was sick. Some kind of way we got blown off the first time, and he was sick. And then the second time he told us to show up, we got there and we got our shit in our bags, and we go in there, and he's got a big red nose, and from blowing it. And Jamie said, before we go in there, he goes, if we can make him laugh, Wolfie, we got a job. I'm like, okay. So we go in. He goes, well, let me see this. Let me see this gimmick I've been hearing about. And so we go in his room next to his office there. We change into the whole shit, hats sideways, hubcap around our neck. We come walking out there, and he started giggling. And he said, I love it. And so it was good too. The match, he probably never watched it. You know what I'm saying? He just took Jeff's word for it.
Hmm.
Who knows what even happened to the fucking tape? Jeff probably pitched it out the window on his way out. But yeah, so he hired us. He did the cool Memphis thing where we got to do the rap videos for 4 weeks before we ever showed up on TV. That was always one of the I loved the wrestling videos
Hmm.
before a person would come in on Memphis TV. Man, I just got through looking at one. Honestly, of the Moondogs, their first one. Uh, and it was just I'll never forget like Kamala, man, the way they did his when he was he's actually not in the jungle, he's at Jerry Jarrett's house in the woods. He's not in Africa. I hate to break it to everybody, but it was cool, man. All that type of stuff, I loved it. The Fabulous Ones.
So, how was Memphis back then? Is it like everybody says it is? Was it the Wild
as
Wild
in,
West?
as in what?
The Wild Wild West back then?
Yeah, man. I mean, we had fun, man. We had a great time. There's nothing like that being on the road. You know, we got a paycheck at the end of the week. I know people like to knock Memphis. They never made anything. We starved. I know some people starved, and honestly, man, me and Jamie would get when we first started, we would get the $40 a night. That's what you get when you're first coming out there in 1990, or excuse me, in '93, and gas is 93 cents a gallon. I mean, we
Yeah.
had enough money. We had enough money to eat, put gas in the car, and buy a bag of weed, and we were good. That's how we roll, man. But then once we started, they gave us a push and all that mess. My payoffs were not $40 a night, and I was also selling, or we were also selling quite a bit of gimmicks, man.
Hmm.
So I loved Memphis, man. Every day you could go to work,
Yeah.
uh, drove to work and come back home, and because I lived in Nashville, which made it that was the best place to be in that territory because you didn't have to do the Memphis Louisville drive. You just had to do Nashville Louisville, Nashville Memphis.
Hmm.
It's maybe stay over on Friday nights or whatever, but it just made it a lot easier to be able to come back home every night with no trip being more than say 4 hours.
Hmm.
Most less than that. So yeah, man, it was fun, man. We had a great time. A lot of good stories, a lot of funny stories. Just yeah, we were just living. I always say like we were just having fun.
Hmm.
It really was not like a job. Once that may have been a detriment to me and Jamie once we went to the next level because it was still we were just having fun, man,
Hmm.
and it came natural to both of us, and like I said, I don't know how more to explain it, man. We were just having fun, and I wish that I would have took it a little bit more seriously at certain times. There's
Hmm.
not a lot I'd go back and change,
Yeah.
but there are. You know what I mean?
So, how long were you in Memphis for before, bigger companies noticed,
We started February '93, and then up to let's see, we went to Mexico for just a few months, came back to Memphis, and we went to Puerto Rico just a few months, I guess, two something, I can't remember. Jamie stayed longer than I did. Um, there's a whole nother story about that that's out. So yeah, after we came back from Puerto Rico, no, before we went to Puerto Rico, they were giving us the push. So about '95 was when we went up to WWF. Uh, it wasn't really a tryout, I
Mm.
don't guess it was called that back then. I guess it kind of was, but they had us. They gave us a match on Raw against two enhancement job guys, Al Brown and Sonny. I can't remember Sonny's last name, but they're two really cool dudes, man. I appreciate them this day for putting us over, But then we worked the smoking guns, so to get the win, and then we worked the smoking guns in a 2 segment match. And here's the funny thing is, and we didn't know this, so we got the tag belts, but we didn't bring them with us because Vince was never going to go, let us wear the Memphis belts out there in 1995 and, call us USWA champions. But by God, we walked to the ring. They are the USWA heavyweight champion. What the fuck? It's like, they're like, you don't got your belts? And they're like, no, nobody, Lawler didn't tell us. And he's the one that got us that deal. Nobody told us to bring the belt. So there was an opportunity in 1995 for the Memphis Tag Team titles to be on Raw. That would have been pretty fucking cool, but nobody seemed to tell us. So here's what I say about that, because they really liked our gimmick. They liked our work. At that time, though, you got monsters up there, okay? The cruiserweights had not come into play yet. The Mexican invasion hadn't happened yet. All that hadn't happened. We were just a little too soon. Had we been a year later, things might have been different, because a lot of people, man, they fucked up. We go, well, I mean, we just didn't fit the mold in 1995.
Yeah.
And, is what it is. But, they bring us back to do the Nation of Domination thing the next year. And we kind of shot ourselves in the foot on that. But again, we were just having fun. Make too much.
So back then, was it just like a handshake agreement, like they would just book you to come up and do that, or was there any contracts or?
We were contracted when we were in the Nation, but the other thing was just a one, because they filmed. It was when they filmed 2 shows or whatever, so it was a one-night deal, and we were hoping we were going to get something out of it. They just the word was that Bruce Pritchard said, "Man, I love them. They're just too small," and I mean, they were impressed with our mic work, because I had never up until that point seen or been in front of a teleprompter. And so for both of those matches, they had these quick little 30-second promos they put up in the corner while the match is going on, and they got this shit written out for us. Me and Jamie had never done that in our lives, and these guys don't know us and what we say, and so we didn't say anything at first, didn't want to rock the boat, but we gave it a shot. And me and Jamie are very good at being one takes, and this thing, and I can't keep up with it. And it's just, we both said, just hang on a minute, said, this don't even sound like us. You just tell us kind of what you want us to say and let us do it our way? They're like, sure. Like, and, and then we nailed it, both little interviews, we nailed it. They were great. They start clapping like but we just weren't used to that. And that's another thing that's like, I always say, I don't feel like anybody. I had Vince Russo do that to me. Tried to, when Jim Mitchell, I think they were cutting costs or something with TNA at a certain point, and they weren't bringing Mitchell in. I was even doing like some singles, I think, and then they were putting me with different people, Flash Flanagan, Sin. I had a billion different partners. Brian Lee was really my main partner there, the one that we got the titles with. But anyway, I'll get back on track. So he's got me, as Slash and OVW, I talked, and it was a psycho kind of talk, whatever. And Russo comes to me with this thing written out, and he's like, I want you to be sitting on the stairs with Flash, because Flash was supposed to be like a junkie partner, Kurt Cobain type deal. And so he wants him to be kind of scratching on, the whole fucking Raven gimmick. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, say this, do this interview and kind of say it like Raven. I said, I'm not fucking Raven. I said, that is not me. It does not sound like me. And you know, Vince, I think used to like me, and then I don't know if he did or I don't know. But anyway, I was just told him, and it was I did it his way,
Mm-hmm.
and it fucking sucked. It fucking sucked. And I'm not saying he didn't write a cool interview, but what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying is you got to be able to either you got to be able to channel that dude, like he's got to
Mm-hmm.
know me well enough to
Yeah.
channel me, or he's got to say, look, this is what I need you to hit, do it how you
Mm-hmm.
do it. You know what I mean? I just don't think that works.
Mm-hmm. How long after you did your second run with the Nation to OVW? What'd you do in between that time period?
Second run in the nation, and then to OVW. Okay, I think I worked Power Pro a little bit, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of indie work.
Mm-hmm.
We did um, we did WCW too for just a little bit. Yeah, we did most all those shows, Nitro, Thunder, and then the syndicated ones. But yeah, so in between there's just a lot of indies.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to figure out. I kind of felt like the whole PG thing had run its course, and the reason I say that is because, like, I had a kid come up to me at the gimmick table, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got the hubcap sitting there, and this little kid, he didn't know what it was. He's like, "What is that?" It's a hubcap. You know, they don't have hubcaps on cars anymore. Everybody's got rims, and if they are hubcaps, they're plastic. And I got this big hunking aluminum gold thing. So I thought, man, maybe it's running its course. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then, especially, and I can't remember whatever year John Cena broke in. You got him looking like PG-13, and people always say, "Oh, I'm not saying he personally stole my gimmick, but
Mm-hmm.
that was the PG-13 gimmick. We were the first ones to do the white boy thug gimmick. I don't care what
Mm-hmm.
nobody says.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody tries to say PN News. PN News, first of all, I don't even think he was like half black, half white, and he had on tights, and he said, "Yo, baby, yo." That was it. So, not knocking him either. I'm just saying that's comparing apples to oranges. But
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that I had to figure out. Okay, once somebody, it don't matter if I was the first one or we were the first ones or whatever. Once somebody takes that gimmick and gets it that over,
Mm-hmm.
you're a fucking copycat, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing indie shows and they think I'm trying to be John Cena, the little kids that don't know who I am. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of just I had to figure something out, man, and it took me a minute. And I was actually in a car wreck, and the car rolled like 4 times. I get shot out the window, and that's a whole big story. But so during that period, I started really thinking, okay, I got to change some shit up,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of a because I honestly could have been killed in that. That's if you're rolling on the side, you come out the side window. That's
Yeah.
kind of hard to get rolled on or something. I was
Mm-hmm.
lucky, so that's kind of. And it wasn't a drunk driving accident. If anybody's thinking that type of thing, and I wasn't driving, and that don't matter. I just like to put that out there. The guy fell asleep because he wasn't a established traveler. But at any rate, so it was kind of a I don't want to say come to Jesus meeting with myself, but all right, if I'm gonna keep doing this, I need to get bigger and
Mm-hmm.
do something. Okay, you'll come up with something else. And I've always been good at coming up with gimmicks, and I just came up with Slash. The name was actually I was gonna call him Slash Killings, and
Mm-hmm.
that before Ron Killings came around. So I didn't, I was gonna be Slash Killings, like a serial killer, crazy dude, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I called him Cornette. I told him about it, and he said, I like it. I think I sent him pictures or something. And anyway, and he had always liked me and Jamie as a
Mm-hmm.
team anyway. And he said, I got somebody to put with you, but he said, drop the Killings. We're just going to call you Slash. And I'm like, cool. And the whole I thing was because of the car wreck. I
Mm-hmm.
figured I could work that in there. And I swear to God, some of the boys, now they didn't believe the contact, but a lot of the boys believed that scar. I put it on so good that there were so many guys that thought it was real. I'm talking to boys in the back. So that was always funny. And then the transformation that I made with my body and even
Mm-hmm.
my face. I had so many guys didn't know who the fuck I was. Still to this day, I have people more fans than the boys anymore. But I did not know you were Slash. Wolfie D and Slash were the same person. Yes, they were. But it was a good transformation.
So, how was OVW at that time and working the disciples and all that,
Yeah,
being a part of that? It's like polar
dude.
opposite.
Yeah. And man, it was I was ready to pay my dues again to show, okay, Wolfie D was this in Memphis. Okay, now let me try this. I literally rode a Greyhound bus from Nashville to Louisville every Wednesday. Somebody picked me up and go to the building. I'd stay the night at Cornette's house so I didn't have to get a room.
Hmm.
And then I think the next day, my wife would come get me. So I was almost like repaying my dues to be a part of it. Believe me, I wasn't making much money.
Hmm.
And that leads us to the ones that, there's the me's and the Flash Flanagans and the Chris Michaels and Sean Casey, Trailer Park Trash, Nick Dinsmore. Well, Nick went on, but there was a lot of guys. Derek King's another one that we already knew what we were doing,
Hmm.
and we aren't getting paid. And they're bringing in these guys, Batista and all these guys, and they're getting paid already by New York,
Hmm.
and it's like they're using us to train them basically, which I ain't got no problem with that, but it always felt like a smack in the face to
Hmm.
us.
Hmm.
And it is what it is, and that's not a man. It ain't a knock on none of those guys
Yeah.
because fuck, I'd have done it too.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
it was awkward being that person that you knew. We had all been in the business long enough where we knew what the deal was. It ain't like they was fooling us. You know what I'm saying? Not that we walked around with a chip on our shoulder because hell, it led me to get a few dark matches with Slash and a couple of syndicated WWE shows with Slash and some other stuff like that. And then ultimately TNA, took Slash in and let me have a nice run there. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, OVW was definitely changing at that point. But I had worked OVW not much, but like when Danny first opened it, I mean,
Hmm.
first opened it. And Trailer Park Trash lived upstairs in the first building, and we'd go out and fuck. Me and Trash got hammered one night, and I went to sleep in the middle of the ring. And next morning, I hear Danny Davis, "Wake up, boy!" and turn the overhead light on the ring. Oh, my head. Yeah, it was a fun atmosphere, man. And like I said, I enjoyed working with all those guys up there, man. And hell, more power to
I can understand where you're coming from that. It would be a little aggravating, because you guys are just as talented. Developmental just seems like a funny thing. Like either they're all in on somebody and the other people are just here, or
them.
they just sign who they know is good and just assume that, hey, you're gonna hang around until we're ready for you. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah. And I don't think that was the right way of doing it. So I get, they were using you to help train people, which shows how good you are, but never getting that recognition. It seemed like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. It was
because you're there
like I
for a
said.
job too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but like I said, I was given a couple opportunities
Hmm.
with that, and it's my own fault for what I probably. I'm not gonna say I'd still be there. You know what I'm saying? With some kind of
Hmm.
fucking legend or something, but I'd have got a fucking job. I
Yeah.
know I would have. I'd not, just taken it seriously once again.
So after that, you did Impact for a while, and how was that run?
I loved it. It was right at home.
Hmm.
I lived in Nashville. It was in Nashville every Wednesday night, so didn't take me long to get to the building. Uh, I loved it, man, and it was kind of a fluke thing. I think, like when Jeff first started even talking about it, man, it was hush hush. I think he made Scott Steiner, and I can't remember if he made me or not because I was trying to help him develop a logo and stuff because I'm kind of
Hmm.
good with stuff like that. He didn't end up using the any of mine, but whatever. Um, he gave me a job. So, and I used to do the tickets, the early tickets that they would paper some of them, and I would put everybody on them and all that shit. Uh, but yeah, so he what do you call it? Non-disclosure agreement. He was real hush hush about it. So with that first show in Huntsville, me and Mitchell, I guess we're in the battle royal, and then the next show I think was at Nashville Municipal Auditorium, and my partner was Tempest, um, Devin Storm,
Mm-hmm.
and we worked together for a minute, and then I'm not sure. I think he just went. I can't remember how. I don't think he was there no more for some reason, but they ended up putting me and Brian together, me and Brian Lee, and putting Mitchell with us, and that just clicked.
Mm-hmm.
We were only supposed to. We were supposed to hold the belts for like 1 week against America's Most Wanted. It was just something like kind of on the fly. Okay, we'll put the belts on them, but we'll take them off next week.
Mm-hmm.
And it just worked. The matches were so good that it was like, no, we better keep them on them. So we got a title run just because we was good.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it.
How has life been after Impact, WWE, OVW? Because you
Uh,
have an accomplished career. You're known. You've traveled. You got to do what you loved.
yeah, absolutely. Probably, I think about that sometimes, man. What would this Nashville kid have done
Mm-hmm.
with his life if it hadn't been for wrestling? And I don't know. I hear people, I'd be dead or in jail. I don't know if that'd be the case, but I don't. I
Mm-hmm.
just wonder, like, what would my occupation have been? Would I lived one of those lives, punching in on a clock, and something that's just not for me? Because after I sold cars, I've actually had a couple of laboring jobs and stuff like that, but ain't nothing like going to wrestle for work,
Mm-hmm.
man. Once you've done something like that, it's really, really hard to get out of bed and be motivated to go
Mm-hmm.
listen to somebody tell you what the fuck to do, or whatever, man.
Yeah.
It's very hard, and you don't get that respect that
Mm-hmm.
you're accustomed to. And not to say that I need somebody pat me on the back and tell me how great I am every day, but you do become accustomed to people treating you a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Of like at my age now, I'm getting the sir stuff, from the kids in the business and all that, and you don't get that shit out there. You know? Welcome to work, sir. I'm glad to have
Yeah.
you. Damn it. Sell me a car, you son of a bitch. Uh, yeah, so it's different, man. And right now I'm not doing anything except just doing some artwork. I was doing some conventions, but Jamie really doesn't want to do that stuff, and that's up to him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of hard to sell the team with only one of you.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't the fucking Dudleys. We're pretty good, but we ain't the fucking Dudleys. We can't do conventions by ourselves.
So what are you up to today? You got the
Nothing.
podcast going?
Yeah, I got the podcast, man. We actually just taped one yesterday. Had some really good luck with that. Live and in color with Wolfie D and my
Mm-hmm.
man Jimmy across the street. Um, he came to me with the idea of it about 2 years ago. I've had some really cool guest friends on. The first little bit of my podcast was we were just trying to tell my story
Mm-hmm.
slowly, and then from then on, we've kind of become more of a let's get guests on and talk to them because like I can talk to these guests in a different way than say you can.
Yeah.
I've got experiences with them, and I think that's what makes ours just a little bit different. Not knocking yours or anybody
Yeah.
else's. I think it's pretty cool because I like to. The show with Seinfeld was it about him and comedians and coffee or some shit like
Yeah.
that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I try to make mine is more just like a road trip, a 1 hour
Mm-hmm.
road trip with whoever my guest is. If we got any kind of common stories, we do that kind of stuff. But some guys I didn't travel with that much and didn't know certain things because this is why it's fun for me too. Is because like some guys that I'm really close to or was back in the day, we were more concerned about like, or I was like my shit and what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really focus on what you know somebody else was doing and their angles and where they came from, really, because there wasn't the internet to study all that shit. and just to know their backgrounds as people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that the Dirty White Boy played for UT, and I've known Tony for years, you know, and so that was stuff like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that's cool to me. I'm not a wrestling historian. I mean, like I said, I started watching it when I was 8. I made a decision, so 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15. So I only watched it for that many years before I jumped in. Let's go.
Let
But
me
yeah,
ask.
man. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You can
No,
finish.
no, no. Go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you one final question, and you be as
Yep.
honest and open as you want. If you
Hmm.
had any advice to give to anybody getting into professional wrestling, what would it be?
Man, you know, the biggest advice used to be keep your mouth shut and keep your ears open. But I'm not so sure that this generation is capable.
Yes.
Because just the way everything has changed, man. Yeah, I get it. You've got to put yourself out there on social media and stuff. But I just feel like there's a real rift. And I really noticed it when I did the Ric Flair pay per view and when I did the Slammiversary a year ago.
Hmm.
There's a bit of a rift in between the older guys and the younger guys, and I don't want to say it's not always been that way, but it's in a different way. You know,
Hmm.
where they honestly think we don't know what we're talking about. Some of them, I'm not saying everybody, but generally. And see, back in the day, man, I used to try to come up with stuff. Well, real quickly, I'll go back to working with Danny Davis all the time. I'd come up with stuff that was, you know, we were the heels, him and Ken Wayne, you know, baby faces. I'd come up with something like, hey, man, instead of just, you know, during the heat, how about you duck a clothesline? They think you're fixing the, you know, just old school spot. They pretty much are detecting that you're coming back with something. I said, let us duck, and then we double drop kick you. And they're like, "Fuck no, we're baby faces, man. You can't do that." You know what I'm saying? That was outlandish to them because as a heel, you wouldn't do that back in the early '90s. But think about that now. That's
Hmm.
fucking common as fuck, man. That's
Yep.
super common.
Hmm.
So, but here's the difference: is I took their word for it
Uh-huh.
and didn't pitch a fit and didn't fucking do it. You know, I might have saved it for on down the line and get somebody else that would do it with me, but I took their advice because I didn't want to get my ass whooped either. You can't hand out ass whoopings no more,
Yeah,
man.
you can't. Ass whoopings are not allowed. You can't even really
No,
yell at anybody anymore.
no, it's crazy, man. Oh my, it's so crazy. Mm.
Imagine if Rip Rogers started now.
Yeah, man, a lot of the trainers, man.
Hmm.
Jesus, just guys in the ring that would stretch you and just to fuck with you, if
Hmm.
nothing else, just to fuck with you. It's just that they would do. And oh Lord, yeah, I'm just glad there weren't camera phones and all that back then.
Where can people reach out to you at?
Man, at Live Wolfie D on all the Instagram, X, YouTube. My podcast is audio only, but we do put some stuff on YouTube. It would help us if you guys would go subscribe to that. We do the shorts and reels of parts of the shows, but then the whole show is dropped every Monday at noon. You can go all the way back in the archives, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, on Facebook, Warren Wolf. There's two Wolfie D accounts, but I think you can figure out by looking at the dates which one's the current one. So yeah, man, that's pretty much it, man. So just podcasting, doing some artwork, and
Hmm.
trying to had a few operations lately, so trying to get all that taken care of too. But yeah, I
Good.
appreciate you having me on, man.
I appreciate you. I appreciate what you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
If there's anything I can ever do, feel free to reach out.
Absolutely, buddy. I appreciate you, man.
Thank